Cast is a Stephen K. Media production.
The success of the small business person is the cornerstone of the American economy. Welcome to the Small Business Today Show with your hosts, Cruz and Hughes. The Small Business Today Show is for and about small business advancement and development. What we do, We'll be taking your calls as we provide you small business intelligence and mentorship needed to grow your business creatively. Keep listening. The Small Business Today Show with Cruz and Hughes starts now.
Hello and welcome back to today's episode of Small Business Today with Cruz and Hughes right here on Blog Talk Radio, where we broadcast live Monday through Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the place where we discuss the topics that inspires entrepreneurs from thought to action. It's just Irvin and myself in the studio today, so if you are out there listening and you want to call and chime in and give us a piece of your mind, you can give us a shout at 347-857-3958. The number here to the studio again is 347-857-3958. Irv, my friend.
Yes, sir.
How was your day today?
It was a great day today, man. You know, I've just been out there grinding, man, building some new companies, starting some new companies. That's always exciting.
Advising some new people.
Yeah, all of that.
So
Teaching classes.
So what's the climate like out there?
Climate is good. I think a lot of people are really excited that we have this election behind us.
I'm for one, me.
We have the election behind us. There's information that's out there now that there's some recovery coming. But what I'm most excited about, John, is everybody I talk to is taking charge of their own futures. I'm hearing less and less language about somebody in Washington is going to come and rescue me. Nobody's going to come and rescue you, folks. You got to do that yourself. That's why you were lucky enough to be one of the people that's 1 out of 17 people lucky enough to be born on American soil. It means that now you take charge. Now you figure out what you're going to do to make economic development work at your house.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a good teaching.
Sure.
And I think that, especially as a small business person, you have to be prepared to save yourself.
That's exactly right.
And we say all the time, there's no bailout for small businesses.
Right.
You have to bail yourself out. And we're approaching that time of year where, we've talked about on this show that it's time to do some planning, some restructuring.
Right.
Get yourself prepared for the new year.
That's correct.
And come out swinging.
Come out swinging. And you know what, with that said, before you plan for the new year, folks, one of the things that I certainly want to encourage you to do, and John, maybe we can talk about this on the show today, is take a look back over the year and see what risks you took that were perhaps unnecessary.
Okay.
Folks, managing risk is a vital part of your everyday business. It's one of those things that when you get into your own business, you are assuming full risk and responsibility for managing those risks. But a lot of times we don't talk about what some of those risks are. Mm-hmm. Some of them are obvious. Some of them aren't so obvious. And so today, John, I thought we'd talk about and kind of run through some of these kinds of risks that come up in small businesses that can really give small business owners problems, especially when they're not real sure what those risks are. And of course, guys, every industry has its inherent risks. So I'm not necessarily talking about industry risk in as much as I'm going to talk about some of the global risks. And then, of course, there's, always follow-on kinds of questions and comments that can come out of that. So I'm hoping we can talk about some of that.
Well, first of all, when you think about risk, managing risk, being in business in and of itself is a huge risk.
Absolutely.
And if someone is looking to start a business, you got to understand that you are taking probably one of the biggest risks that you can take as a person.
Right.
And I think what you're saying is there's still yet a way to manage that risk.
Right.
And take yourself from I guess the dangers of going out of business to at least being a profitable, viable operation.
Well, exactly right. And, in the finance world, John, especially in commercial finance, we call that a going concern. Mm-hmm. When a company is liquid, it's viable. We consider that to be a viable business because it's liquid. And guess what? When you're not liquid, then we're stuck with the idea that you're not a going
Well,
concern.
first of all, how many businesses are liquid,
Well, it's an interesting
especially small
point.
businesses?
It's an interesting point because most small businesses, especially in the last 2 years, are bootstrap businesses.
Mhm.
And so liquidity is a big deal for them if they've gone about their steps correctly. And what I mean by that is, every business starts kind of with the same problem: no income and no assets, right?
Mhm.
And so how do you keep a business with no income and no assets liquid while you're growing?
Yeah.
And that means sales.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. It means sales, but not just sales, folks. It means profitability, and it means controlling debt. And therein lies the problem for a lot of people. We talk about this on the show all the time, that a lot of times we have people who use the wrong financial tools for the wrong reasons and at the wrong time. And that will directly affect liquidity. And, with that said, John, liquidity is actually one of the basic risks that small businesses take, is a liquidity risk.
Mhm.
And not only business, but personal. Because now, oftentimes when you're starting a new business, the liquidity that the business has comes from personal assets
Right.
or personal cash. Well, guess what? Now you've got to have a really good handle on what your personal living expenses are, because you can't stop living while you're doing this thing.
Mhm.
And you've got to have a really good handle on how much money it's going to take to get you where you want to go, where you can start the business generating revenue for you. And so there is a liquidity risk that's inherent in just starting a business, period.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, for those people who are startups, and I've had people ask me, and they want to know a benchmark number, as it were. How much money should I have saved to cover my personal bills
Right.
when starting a business, or
Right.
how much money should I have put to the side
Right.
in terms of operating capital
Yeah.
after I've started my business,
Exactly.
after I've paid all those expenses?
Exactly. And
Do you consider there to be a number,
Sure,
a benchmark number?
Sure, absolutely. And in fact, let's talk about that because I think for the benefit of people who might be starting up or considering a startup, this can be really, really helpful for you. First of all, and a lot of you are not going to like the answers to John's questions about, how much money should you have put away for yourself personally. And here's the deal. You take your monthly expenses. This is personal now. You take your personal monthly expenses, and you divide by 0.40. That's the formula. And you'll get a new number. And then you take that number and you divide by 12. Okay. And that'll tell you how much money each month you need to have set aside to take care of yourself and your household while you're building this new venture. And let me tell you, if you use that formula, you absolutely will be liquid.
Okay, then you say that formula is 0.40.
You take your current monthly expenses,
Mhm.
all of them, and you divide
personal expenses.
your personal monthly expenses, the minimum amount of money it takes for your house to run properly, and then you divide by 0.40. That's going to give you another number. By doing that number, you're going to take, it's going to give you a monthly number of how much money per month should you be making. If you're not making that amount of money, guess what? You've got to put away enough money to make up that number.
Wow.
So a lot of you aren't going to be real happy about that, but I'm going to tell you, liquidity risk is a big, giant, looming risk for people who are startups, because if you have to have put away enough personal money so that if the startup does not go well, that you can still live to fight another day.
Now, let's take people like, and I know this is going to be an interesting subject for you, but let's take people like Corey and Millie Camadiner.
Excellent example.
And, by all intents and purposes, if I were advising them,
sure,
they have done none of the things
exactly
that I would advise a small business to do.
Exactly.
However, they've been successful.
That's correct.
They've expanded.
That's correct.
And they're and even in, Corey made the point yesterday that although we have great cash flow,
sure,
they're reinvesting
Quite a bit.
All of that cash flow.
That's right.
And that's even something that I don't advise.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Because I do believe that, as a small business, because it's like a 1 or 2 year old child.
Right.
The more speed they pick up, the more nervous a parent gets.
That's right.
Because they're just a little shaky. They're
That's
a little
right.
wobbly.
That's right.
And as a small business, I believe that, having money in the bank, being as liquid as you possibly can,
Sure.
prepares you for safety. Because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. When something happens, when some sort of tragedy strikes,
Right.
you lose a key employee,
Right.
you lose a key account,
Right.
or something like
Sure.
that. Now, knowing that,
Right.
tell me what you would say. How would you have advised them?
Well, I would advise them just like I would have advised anyone else. I would have advised them to position themselves to remain liquid. I would have advised them to not take those risks that we're going to run through during the course of this show. But when we come back, I want to talk about the other side of the coin.
Okay.
All right.
Because you got a lot of small business people that say that, look, man,
Absolutely.
I can't keep sitting on the sidelines. I got to
right.
pull the trigger.
That's right. And
I got just enough to get started, and I'm going to go with it.
And that's why we got to talk about the other side of the coin.
All right, when we come back, we'll pick that right back up. Guys, you're listening to Cruz and Hughes, and if you want to see what we're doing right here in the studio, you're always welcome to go to our business website, which is www.cruzandhughes.com. That's CRUISE and AND, Hughes, HUGHES, cruzandhughes.com, and you can click on the link and you can see, not that you want to, but you can see Herb and I right here on the camera.
That's right.
Today's show is being brought to you by Small Business Today magazine. It is the magazine that's printed here in Houston, Texas, and is for and about Houston's entrepreneurs. If you'd like to get your free copy, we encourage you to go to smallbusinesstodaymagazine.com, put your email information in, and we'll send you one each and every month as soon as it's printed and designed. Stay with us. More in a moment with John and Herb.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
or even worse,
We've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
so how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cuny is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancuny.com. Or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, disastrous, politics, stock market,
And this alternative is...
coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
With my Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus headset, I'm free. Free to talk to you while carrying a laptop bag, holding a cup of coffee, and fishing for my car keys. Now, you may ask me, Jim, is it really necessary to use the phone while doing all these things? And my answer is it really necessary not to? Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus. It's my so comfortable, why wouldn't I use it all day headset.
Get your Voyager Pro Plus at Plantronics.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today. Visit us on the web at cruiseandhughes.com. Here are your hosts, Cruz and Hughes.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Irv and I are talking about managing risks, and being in business in and of itself is a huge risk. And there's so many aspects of being in business that you have to stay on top of to mitigate that risk.
Absolutely.
Now, we gave the scenario about Corey and Millie, who run a company called newhomeprograms.com.
Exactly.
And just listening to their story, I mean, which is a awe-inspiring story.
Sure.
Of being dedicated to their vision, their goal, and their dream, and working every single day relentlessly to pursue that.
Right.
And they've achieved the level of success that most companies are not seeing, especially in that industry. They're in the real estate business. They run a real estate firm. They have 2 offices here in the Houston area, and they have an office in Orlando and one in Tampa. Now, you were about to make a point.
Right.
As we were going into break.
Right. I was talking about, you asked the question, John, how much money should a person have set aside personally to kind of take care of themselves, meet their personal obligations, meet their personal expenses while they're in the process of building a business. And I was talking about a formula that actually generates quite a bit of money, projects quite a bit of money that needs to be set aside.
Mm-hmm.
Your follow-on question to that was, well, what do you do when you have a Corey and Millie?
Right.
Would I have advised them any differently? And the answer is no. I would have still advised them the very things that I'm talking about now. We as consultants have to make sure that any information that we're giving to someone from a consulting standpoint is going to meet we have to give them the best information that we can possibly give them. That's the trust that they're extending to us.
Correct.
All right. So now, with that said, once given that information, now whose decision is it to execute that?
The entrepreneur.
Now it's on the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the unknowns that they have. We don't know how far they're willing to go. So when we're consulting, even when we're on this show, we're giving information that would be the best information we can give to a wide range of the population who are in small business.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have exceptional people.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the numbers don't work the right way, or the standard numbers don't necessarily apply to really exceptional people like a Corey and Millie. That entrepreneur has to mentally and emotionally and spiritually prepare for the rigors that they're going to put themselves through if they opt out of doing the best that they can financially. One of the things that you notice immediately about Corey and Millie from yesterday's show is that they're happy to make those investments. They're happy to make those sacrifices. But I think most people would agree that that is not a picture of most entrepreneurs.
Right.
Most entrepreneurs would be nervous and scared out of their mind, and to the point that they really couldn't even function. But you never.
Do you think that's really what the difference is between? Because you take someone else who I'm certain that across this country there are other people who have started similar or like businesses, such as New Home Programs,
right?
But weren't successful,
right?
Right. And you think that the major difference is personal attitude is basically what it sounds like it comes down to.
Yeah, well, it absolutely does, because they're willing to take those risks in stride. Yeah. That's the point. And when you talk to them, you would almost think they've never had a problem. But even when they talk about some of the problems they've overcome, they do it almost tongue-in-cheek. It's almost they almost chuckle about the things that they've overcome. That their persona, their attitude is almost as if when it's too tough for normal people, it's just right for us.
Yeah, yeah.
And so. What I'm saying is the other side of the coin here, John, is that the entrepreneur ultimately is the X factor.
Gotcha.
No matter what we tell them, we still are obligated to give them the good, sound advice.
And I was just about to say, if I could qualify that, just because a consultant says that you should not do something, I don't believe that any good consultant can honestly say that if you don't follow my advice, that you are not going to be successful.
That's correct.
We cannot say that as a consultant.
No.
What we really do is we're playing the averages.
Absolutely.
And so listening to what you're telling me based on the plan of action that I am looking at,
correct.
Chances are you're not going to have the level of success, or you're exposing yourself to an enormous amount of risk.
That's right.
And I just think that it's probable that you're not going to see you're not going to see the success that you're shooting for.
Absolutely, John. One of the things we talked about on yesterday with Corey and Millie is I said, I understand that your business model is not supposed to work. And
right.
And they both chuckled about that. You see what I'm getting at?
Right, absolutely.
They know their business model as it is and the way they're doing it, just because of the huge amounts of reinvestment they're making of the profits. It's not supposed to work on paper.
That's true.
But that's not the point, because that's not the end of the story. Most people aren't going to make those kinds of huge reinvestments to grow and push out their business the way they do, and be comfortable with being on the short end of the stick, so to speak.
Because you're swimming upstream.
Well, absolutely, but they're all right with that.
But can I tell you one of the things that I do see in them that you always talk about?
What's that?
Evangelism.
That's exactly right.
And I'm not talking about religious.
Not talking about finding religion.
Or spiritual evangelism.
No.
They totally believe in what they're doing.
That's right.
And it's infectious.
That's right. And we talk about two things on the show literally since you and I have been on the air together. One of them is, what is power? And a lot of people believe money is power. But you know what? When you're in a small business, money is not power. Belief is power.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people believe that money and appearances build trust. But guess what? Money is not currency. It's trust today.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are two things: belief and trust. You've got to have trust, and which they agreed to.
Right.
They agreed to that totally, because their model automatically builds trust in the relationship between their clients and their firm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then secondly, they believe it. And so that belief is transferable, and that empowers.
I believe it.
I mean, our show, we do this show. We literally stop our day, John and I, and our fantastic producer extraordinaire, Stephen K.
Yeah.
We stop our day every day to do this show. Why? Because all of us believe that somewhere, somebody out there listening is going to benefit from information and business intelligence that we have to share.
And that's exactly why we do this. And since we're on that note, why don't you go through your list of risks that small businesses need to be apprised of, and how they can mitigate that risk?
Absolutely. Well, another one is, we talked about liquidity risk, and another one is strategic risks. And strategic risks, John, have to do with strategy errors. When you make a business decision on operating your business, or whether or not you're going to get a loan versus a line of credit, or whether or not you're going to buy that widget or that thing that you think is going to make your business grow or make your business more competitive. Every time you make a business decision regarding the strategy, the executable steps in your business, you're taking a risk as to whether or not that step is the right step, or is it a mistake?
Mm-hmm.
And so there are strategic risks that are involved. Getting into ineffective processes where you think perhaps this process will work better, only to find out that this process doesn't work better. Maybe getting into a promotion where you think you're going to motivate people, customers, or employees, only to find out that, no, that promotion really doesn't work that way.
Right.
And so you're taking strategic risks there. So that's one of the risks. And then talking about, how do you go about mitigating risk? Well, some of it is having to make sure you gather enough information on the front end before you launch any type of strategic initiative.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really, really big, John, on gathering intelligence.
Okay.
You better gather up all the information you can, because you need to prove your hypothesis.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it is you think might work in your business, now go and try to find some evidence to support that.
Wow. And and there's sometimes in your business where there is no evidence to support it.
That's right.
And you talk about stepping out on faith.
That's right.
Because not all things can be quantified depending on, when the computer was first made, somebody had to be first to market.
Exactly.
You just have to believe and know that this is the next thing that's going to set the trend.
Well, that's exactly right. And one of those things, if you created a really unique business model, you need to go and take a hard look at your closest competitors.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that always made me nervous, still till this day as we sit here, is when I talk to an entrepreneur, John, and the first thing they tell me is, well, first of all, I have no competitors. All right. See, to me, you've invalidated your business model.
Yeah, that's scary to hear from the standpoint of a banker, from the standpoint of an investor.
That's exactly right. Because now what you're saying is you want money for something that you couldn't measure. And now that, to me, is a blank check.
Can you think of anybody that has no competitors?
No. They may not know who they are, or they may not be direct competitors, and they may be indirect competitors.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody.
No, I know, because if they are making any money at all, they've got some competitors.
Well, I guess that remains or what should be said is that those who have no competitors also don't have a viable business.
That's exactly right. They just simply do not have a viable business, and it's just true. I don't care what the industry is. A lot of people would want to try to refute that, and some people really, when they say they don't have a competitor, it just tells me they really don't completely understand the business they're in. So when we come back, we'll pick up another one of those risks.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about credit risk when we come back. Folks, you're listening to Small Business Today with Cruz and Hughes. It's brought to you by the Lexington Law Firm. When you need credit help, get a free consultation today by giving them a call at 888-744-7081. Don't go away. The education continues right after this.
Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cooney is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancooney.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at...
Excuse me, heavy news?
You know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is...
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
Free?
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
With my Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus headset, I'm free. Free to talk to you while carrying a laptop bag, holding a cup of coffee, and fishing for my car keys. Now, you may ask me, Jim, is it really necessary to use the phone while doing all these things? And my answer is it really necessary not to? Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus. It's my so comfortable, why wouldn't I use it all day headset.
Get your Voyager Pro Plus at Plantronics.com.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
or even worse,
We've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
so how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz.
You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruz and Hughes. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're wherever you are.
Okay, welcome back to the show. Irv and I are talking about mitigating risk, and in the last segment, we talked about those risks associated with your processes,
right?
Your strategic risks, and now we're going into credit risk.
Yeah, credit risk, and that's always an interesting one because, guys, credit risk is really the risk of losses that come out of a borrower not paying you back. All right. Or perhaps if you're selling in a business-to-business space where somebody you've extended credit to literally gets into trouble and they can't pay you back. So you're taking credit risk.
Now, and that's the point I wanted to make certain that you made crystal clear. We're not talking about just you walking into a bank and being a risk for that lending institution.
No.
We're talking about when you take on a new client and you extend to them credit, which means that you're going to give them services or product and then issue an invoice in hopes that they'll pay it. And some people don't see, they don't believe that they're extending credit, or if they do any type of service and a day lapses, and you have to send mail, fax, an invoice, you are extending credit. If you're not paid either before or at the time that service has been rendered, you're extending credit.
Period.
And how many businesses have we seen that go out of business simply because the people that they do business with can't pay them?
That's exactly right. And folks, let me tell you what, credit risk is a real risk, okay? Because it's going to hit you right square in the bottom line. And when you are selling on credit, and I talk about this all the time, John, when you're selling on credit, folks, and basically to be clear, selling on credit means you don't get paid at the time of service. All right.
Right.
So you're selling on credit right then. And if you're not set up to sell on credit, guess what? You could have credit risk, and boy, you better take steps up front to mitigate those risks. What are some of those risk mitigating factors? One, check people's credit. If you're extending credit, you better be checking credit.
Yeah.
Why? Because now you're a creditor, right? So you have every right to look at somebody's credit if you're going to consider extending credit to them. You might say, well, I don't want to go to the time and expense to do that when I might have a small ticket item that I'm extending. Well, let me just give you a little tip. Folks, if you're losing money, whether it's a penny per transaction or $1 million a transaction, you're losing money.
You're still losing money.
You're still losing money. And so guess what? You might change your business model to get out of the credit business if that's what you're doing.
Now, and I know that some people, as you said, are going to be apprehensive to asking someone that's doing business with them.
Sure.
Let me see your credit report, or let me see your pay history. How do I know how you pay?
Right.
But if you are too afraid to do that, or you don't feel that that's a good fit for how you run your business, then you really better give a good look to the amount of credit that you extend. Meaning that I can't run the risk of doing a $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 order for someone, and I have no experience with how they pay, and I haven't seen any proof that they pay anyone.
That's exactly right, and that's my point. You better look at how you're going to enhance your model.
Man, I mean, I could name so many businesses here in the local area that I know that, especially when 2008 hit. I mean, those receivables weren't being received.
That's exactly right. And look, and let me just tell you, when that happens, you got some serious trouble going, folks. I mean, credit risk is one of those risks that will literally put you out of business. And so that's why it's on my list here.
Okay.
All right. Next one is market risk. And market risk, folks, is when the market does something, and I'm talking about global market. When you're for example, if you're in the oil and gas business, and I'll just pull that out arbitrarily, and the price of crude, something happens in the market, you've been doing fine in the business, in the industry, and all of a sudden the price of crude drops to $30 or $40. down from the $90 it is now or thereabouts. All right. That's a market condition. You can't control that in your own small business. And now you're being adversely affected by something you have no control over. That is why, as a small business owner, it's vitally important that you pay attention to what is happening in your industry, both directly and indirectly. Legislation, that's another one. Legislation, folks, legislation can change markets, okay? Can change market conditions. Legislations could change. Regulations for compliance. Now you have compliance issues. Legislation can bring in competitors that you didn't have a minute ago. All right. And so you got to pay attention to market risk, because you can absolutely, market risk can show up in your balance sheet where now all of a sudden assets that you thought you had now become liabilities, or vice versa. It could work in your favor where now you had liabilities, but guess what? Now those things become assets. So you have to pay attention to market risk.
Well, the last two examples that you've given, one is credit risk. Now we're talking about market risk.
Right.
And let me tell you how the business that I was in was affected by both of those. Because as a mortgage broker, when I was brokering mortgage loans, a person would come in, take a loan application, and they would pay for their appraisal and their credit report.
Sure.
So at least I didn't have to cover those expenses as a company. But then I would work on this loan for about 30 days in hopes that that customer, if and when I got them approved for that mortgage, that they would go to closing, they would sign the documents, and then I would make $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000.
Sure.
There were so many times when I would put in all the work, and if we went a day out of contract, the seller would take another contract.
Right.
Or the buyer would do something foolish, like go out and buy a brand new car and throw their income to debt ratios completely off.
Right.
And after looking at that business model, it was a good business.
Sure.
If you pumped in a lot of loans.
Right.
But we also had a lot of write-off because although I didn't pay for the appraisal and credit report, I'm still paying for the paper.
Right.
I'm still paying for the manpower that it takes to push that paper.
That's right.
So we assumed about $600 in costs on every single loan,
no matter whether you want or not,
whether we closed it or not.
That's right.
And I personally don't like a business model like that where it takes so long to get paid.
Right. Well, exactly right. And that's kind of what those are indirect risks that are directly associated, though, with the market you were in. It's the business you were in.
Yeah.
And so if the market changed where all of a sudden you didn't have any banks.
Right. now that goes to my second point. And so we sell our mortgage company. We get out of that business and we start doing business to business finance.
Right.
And we would find individuals who had large amounts of money that they were trying to get into the small business sector. We would broker those loans and we would make money on that. So then what happens? The market moved away from us.
That's right.
Nobody was lending in 2009.
That's right.
So then, and when you think about that, it's really tough to ramp up a business like that because the business can come in and it could be moving so fast.
Right.
I mean, there were times when we were making $30,000 a week in that business.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden,
bang.
Nothing.
Yes, right.
Nothing.
To zero.
You got 2 offices, 26 salespeople.
That's right.
8 employees.
That's right.
And now you can't get a deal done anywhere.
And you're upside down so fast you can't believe it.
Well, I mean, you're just bleeding cash.
That's right.
And that again is one of the reasons why I am a stickler in regards to saving money.
Sure.
You can't reinvest every dollar that you make.
No, you just can't. And, when people are in a position where they're comfortable doing that, that's a very, very, very unique situation and a unique person who can do that, because now there's something else that's driving that.
Right.
All right. So we talked about market risk, John, and another one on my list here, which we kind of touched on, but I want to drill down, and that's operational risk. Now, operational risk really has to do with losses that comes from not having the necessary internal controls to manage your business. Now we're talking about maybe you have a business and you have good revenues, but guess what? You can't keep up with it because you don't have the tools. For example, QuickBooks. That's a good example. Or perhaps you don't do the data entry. You have QuickBooks, but you don't put the information in.
Yeah.
Okay, those are operational risks that you're taking because now you're lacking the internal controls necessary to keep up with the money in and the money out of your company.
You know, and to add to that, I mean, when we talk about operational risks, not having the right staff.
Not having the right staff. Now you're talking about human resources, and that's an operational risk because you're in a small business. You probably don't have an HR department, and now you hire somebody, and now you find out that that person brought with them into your company all of the baggage that they might have had, where they've got social obligations not met, like child support or things like this. Maybe you've got an immigration issue. We're here in Texas, and that could be an issue. Not that these people are necessarily bad people, but guess what? Had you known that, or had you had an internal control that would ferret that information out before you make a hiring decision, guess what? You probably could have handled that situation a little bit differently.
Let me give you an example. I know a gentleman, I'm not going to say his name or his company, but he was in the money lending business. He had a payday loan business, and he hired away from another payday loan company, one of their top salespeople. What do you think that top salesperson did? Well, to get the new job, he promised to bring so much business with him. Mm-hmm. Well, he took the book of business from his previous employer, brought it to his new employer, and that previous employer sued not only that employee,
that's right,
but he also sued the business owner.
Right.
They were awarded a $500,000 judgment against the new business owner for basically stealing away his business, his clientele.
That's right.
And that's how the court looked at it.
Absolutely. And because in that business, that can cause irreparable damage.
Yeah. And it did. And that particular business is no longer in existence because of that lawsuit.
I can believe it. Listen, we're going to take a break here, John. And when we come back, we're going to talk about, we've been talking about operational risk, but I want to talk about compliance risk because I kind of touched on that earlier, but I really want to get into a little bit of detail about compliance and trying to make sure that your business is being operated in a way that it's in compliance with all the state and local and federal rules.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, folks, you're listening to Small Business Today with Cruz and Hughes. It's brought to you by RingCentral.com. To get RingCentral's virtual PBX for your business, give them a call today at 888-716-5022. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more risk principles. Don't go away.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stephen, how do I make radio advertising work?
Or even worse,
we've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
So how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash. I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz. Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cooney is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancooney.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now at...
Excuse me, heavy news?
You know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is
Coffee News. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
free.
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for Coffee News. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's Coffee News.
With my Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus headset, I'm free. Free to talk to you while carrying a laptop bag, holding a cup of coffee, and fishing for my car keys. Now, you may ask me, Jim, is it really necessary to use the phone while doing all these things? And my answer is it really necessary not to? Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus. It's my so comfortable, why wouldn't I use it all day headset.
Get your Voyager Pro Plus at Plantronics.com.
You're listening to Small Business Today. Visit us on the web at cruzandhughes.com. Here are your hosts, Cruz and Hughes.
Okay, welcome back to the show. If you have a question or a comment, you can still call in. The number is 347-857-3958. Again, the number here is 347-857-3958. We're talking about mitigating risk, and there's risk associated with every single enterprise. And one of the things that you never want to be under the impression of is that, number one, you have no competitors,
right?
And number two, that this is a no risk deal.
That's exactly right, folks. Just because it's your own business, trust me, you have risk involved. And guess what? Because you're the first investor, you have more risk than everybody else.
And anyone else.
And just to bulletize and go back through the list, first we talked about liquidity risk, strategic risks, credit risks, market risks. We talked about operational risks. And now, John, I want to talk about, in this last segment here, or next to the last segment, I want to talk about compliance risks. Compliance risk, guys, you got to pay attention to rules. And I'm talking about state and local law now. All right, you got to pay attention to how these things are going to affect your business. For example, and I'll bring out an example that can affect a lot of people in business: bankruptcy. All right, the bankruptcy rules are substantially different today than they were prior to 2004. I think in 2004 all the bankruptcy rules changed, and guess what? That's going to affect your business because why? People you're doing business with, whether they're vendors, whether they're customers, whether they're partners of yours, somebody going into bankruptcy can negatively affect your business. Guess what? You need to know about that. Why? Because if somebody you're associated with files bankruptcy, are you a creditor? Are you liable for something that maybe you guys have done together? And if so, how much of that are you liable for?
Right.
There's a lot of things that can really negatively affect you. And not that you're trying to not be compliant, but your internal controls and processes, because there was a rules change, could literally make your business policies and procedures now out of compliance just because the rule changed.
Well, when you say compliance, one of the things that jumps off the page to me is being a corporation versus being a sole proprietor.
Sure, absolutely.
And to stay compliant under the corporate regulations and rules that are here to protect those compliant corporations, you have to do certain things like have an annual meeting, you have to file your minutes, you have to complete resolutions, you have to keep an accurate corporate record book.
That's right.
And here's the thing. If you operate under your Texas Secretary of State or your Texas, or your Indiana Secretary of State or whatever state that you're in,
that's right.
You're under a regulatory agency.
That's correct.
And so, and as a regulatory agency, that agency, if they put in an investigation of your business, they can essentially come in. They're not a police power. They don't need evidence to shut you down.
That's right.
All they need is a rumor.
Yeah.
So the thing is, you want to stay compliant with your corporation regulations, your corporation laws, and whatever other agency that you operate. If you have to maintain some type of specialized license to do what you do, compliance is key. Now, for those businesses, you mentioned something earlier about market risks.
That's right.
Working in your business is a good thing, but you have to spend time educating yourself on what's happening at the state and government or state and federal level, and as it relates to any new regulations or laws that affect your business. You also have to pay some attention to any type of market movements that will adversely affect your business. You got to spend that time educating yourself, or else you can't forecast in your business.
Well, that's exactly right. And when we talk about spending time to educate yourself, I can almost hear people going, I just don't have time. Well, guess what? You don't have time not to. All right. When we're talking about educating yourself, folks, we're not talking about you spending 8, 10, 15, 20 hours a month doing this stuff. We're simply saying on a regular basis, pay attention to what's happening in your market. For me, John, I do it every day. A little bit every day.
If you want to be a track star, it calls for you to practice. You have to run.
You have to run.
So you can't be a track star and then I say, well, how many times have you ran this week? None. I don't have time. Well, then you're not a track star.
That's exactly right.
You know, if you're going to be a boxer, you got to fight.
That's exactly
how many fights have you had this week? None. Well, then you're not boxing. And business is the same way. If you're going to be a small business owner, an entrepreneur, these are things that not that you should do, that you better do.
That's exactly right.
Or else at some point, your industry is going to make a move on you and you're going to be wiped off the map.
That's exactly right. You know, one of my holdings is a contract finance company. And I have to pay attention to how governments are paying their bills. For example, I watch that. That's a market index that talks about how government agencies are paying. That's going to directly affect me. Well, guess what? It's going to also give me some information about some government agencies that I'm not going to finance contracts that come from those agencies because they've got budget issues, or they've got somebody in their legislative branch that are having problems with passing the budget, or maybe there's some sort of rule going on about how they're paying contractors and which contractors and what rules triggers payment for those guys and so on. I have to pay attention to all that stuff.
You have to pay. I mean, it's like running fast through a dark room. Nobody does it. You're setting yourself up for failure. My thing is that as it relates to your business, you want to spend time in educating yourself on who the largest competitors are, meaning who are the big money makers in what you do, because on a national level, you know that those people probably influence legislation. So I want to know who they are, and I have to pay attention to what moves they're making. And then on a scalability side, I want to know who is my largest competitor that's closest to my side.
Absolutely.
And I have to pay attention to what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So I mean, guys, I can't stress it enough. I love that comment. You've got to pay attention to compliance, and compliance to me means educating yourself on what's going on across the board.
Do a little bit every day, folks. Okay, so John, the next one is reputational risks. Now, I could see you ready to jump in right there,
I'm about to eat the mic.
Reputational risks, okay? Now, folks, reputational risk is risk that has that comes from negative publicity, all right? Where, you know, some organization or some person or business practice has adversely affected your business because now your customers are angry, or your customers are restless, or maybe you just have one customer that's having a problem. And so now they've gone public with whatever it is that, you know, you've allegedly done or pain that you've allegedly caused them. And so now this thing winds up in the news. Now this thing winds up in social media, and now your reputation is tainted, or a cloud has been cast over your reputation.
I think a lot of companies are not spending enough time establishing a business reputation for themselves.
Right.
Most small businesses have zero reputation. They haven't done anything bad, and they think that's good.
Yeah. That's not good.
That is not good.
That's right.
You have to spend time. And most entrepreneurs that I speak to, and I'm not saying most nationwide, most worldwide, when I ask them the question, what are you doing right now to enhance or build your business reputation, it's like a deer in headlights. They really don't understand the question.
That's exactly right. And you know what? When we come back, we're going to hit the last bullet point. That'll be in our short segment. So make sure you don't go away, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk to you about customer relationship management systems, because I want to talk with you about transparency. That's going to be our last segment. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
Are you looking to improve your health and well-being? Have you lost your energy and vitality? Do you wake up feeling 10 years older than you actually are? Looking for a doctor who really listens? Looking for a natural alternative to your chronic health challenge? Dr. Dan Cooney is a chiropractic nutritionist who helps restore your health from the inside out using whole food supplements and specific nutritional counseling. Learn more about Dr. Dan's 7 Pillars of Health on his website, drdancooney.com, or give him a call at 713-295-9358.
Introducing the alternative to heavy news. Now,
Excuse me, heavy news?
you know, disasters, politics, stock market.
And this alternative is
Coffee news. It's entertaining stories, famous quotes, and family fun. It's light news. Why it's so light, it's free.
free.
In restaurants and coffee shops all across Houston. So next time you're waiting in a restaurant, look for coffee news. If they don't have it, tell them to get it by visiting coffeenewshouston.com.
It's light. It's free. It's coffee news.
With my Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus headset, I'm free. Free to talk to you while carrying a laptop bag, holding a cup of coffee, and fishing for my car keys. Now, you may ask me, Jim, is it really necessary to use the phone while doing all these things? And my answer is it really necessary not to? Plantronics Voyager Pro Plus. It's my so comfortable, why wouldn't I use it all day headset.
Get your Voyager Pro Plus at Plantronics.com.
Turn up the sales on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Anything Internet will evaluate your website for marketing power, for traffic, for conversion rates. We'll figure out why people buy and why people go away. We'll help you generate the correct traffic that will turn into customers and make you money. Turn the juice up on your website today with anythinginternet.com. Turn your website into a web business. 1-800-686-5986.
Very often, people come to me saying,
Stevenson, how do I make radio advertising work?
or even worse,
We've tried radio ads before and got little to no response.
so how do you make the radio work for you? Well, you could have a clever jingle.
Come buy my stuff. Come buy my stuff.
Or you may act crazy and loud and have an unbeatable offer.
I'll save you cash, I'll save you time, and I'll do it today, guaranteed.
But these techniques may work for some and not for others. The real key to advertising is to go back to basic marketing principles. Target your ideal prospect, make your message clear and concise, and touch the listener by connecting to their needs. Stephen K. Media specializes in radio advertising promotion that effectively broadcasts your company's message, yielding higher response and better results. As an independent agency representing major talk radio stations, we help you negotiate rates and place your ads targeting your ideal prospect. Call us today at 713-278-9109 or visit stephenk.biz. That's 713-278-9109 or email info@stephenk.biz.
You're listening to Small Business Today with Cruz and Hughes. Follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. We're wherever you are.
Okay, welcome back to the show, guys. If you ever want to give us a call, you're always welcome to do so at 347-857-3958. Irv and I do this show from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We encourage you to communicate with us. We encourage you to bring some of your business issues and challenges and problems and see if we can help you overcome those things.
That's right.
Now, this is the last segment. It's our short segment, and we have one more bullet point as it relates to mitigating business risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks, let me just tell you, one of the biggest problems, the foundation for mitigating risk in any business is transparency. Transparency, meaning that you have made information available to everyone inside the organization so that they can all be on the same page and understand what the company's goals, policies, procedures, business practices are with regard to relating to customers. Also, transparency. When something goes wrong, all right, document, because guess what? If something goes wrong, you need to be able to formulate a way to address that issue. If it's something that turns out to be in the public domain, guess what? You need to get prepared to be able to answer questions regarding whatever the infraction may or may not have been. It might not have been an infraction, but guess what? It appears to be. You got to be prepared for that. And transparency is one of those elements of mitigating and managing risk. And then lastly, you want to make sure that you have good tools, software tools, like a good customer relationship management system. A lot of people talk about, well, I want a customer relationship management system because it'll help me build my business, and that's true. It'll help me manage relationships with my customers, and that's true. But guess what? He who documents the conversation in the relationship can make the rules when the time calls for it.
Well, I think we've had a great show.
I think we've had a great show.
Man, I mean, stick around. Come back tomorrow for more. You know what? I think we should probably touch on some banking issues tomorrow.
Ooh, that's good.
Because we're getting to that time of year now where it's going to be time to raise some money to pay for all the things that we're going to buy.
That's right.
In the month of December.
That's right.
So come back tomorrow. Irv and I will line some other topics up for you guys. You've been listening to Small Business Today with Cruz and Hughes. I'm John Cruz.
I'm Irv Hughes.
And until tomorrow, be smart, be successful, and above all else,
be in action.
And Irv and I will see you tomorrow.